You're with Property Mythbusters. I'm Debra Beck-Mewing from Crave Property Advisory.
And I'm Gilmovich from Real Property Manager.
And I'm Ken from Avvora Finance. We're here to bust myths around the contradictions and misleading information about property investing. And so for the next 10 minutes, we'll be talking about the myth, all my maintenance costs will be covered by the tenant.
Yeah, and so to really get this started, let's have a few definitions. And the reason that we're talking about this topic is that often property owners are confused about who actually pays for the maintenance of their properties. And it comes in different buckets, doesn't it, John? There's wear and tear, then there's maintenance, and then my favourite, insurance. Can you loosely cover those categories?
Yeah, so this topic today is a great one because it's just right at the heart of the centre of property management world. And
That's
huge,
why you're in the centre today.
Absolutely, and a huge area of disputes amongst property investors and tenants and property managers, of course. And by way of all the different definitions of the three, and sometimes the lack of understanding of the actual legislation, there's a lot of there's a lot of myth around what occurs, how it occurs, who's responsible, and who foots the bill. So just on those three itself, you have wear and tear, of course, and wear and tear is defined as just the natural depreciation through the use of the premises.
Okay.
Maintenance, of course, is the proactive approach in upkeep of your property. So we see that as something.
But it could pick up on the audio. That's
all right.
Okay. So between residential and commercial property and obligations of both landlords and tenants, there's a huge and wide divide. The Residential Tenancy Act itself is pretty fixed on the terms and conditions inside the leases as far as who's responsible for what. But inside of commercial or retail leases, there's flexibility there. So for example, you can add additional terms in commercial leases for the lessees to be responsible for certain things of their own premises, and that's accepted by law. Unfortunately, you can't do that in residential. So any additional terms are actually null and void if they contradict the actual legislation.
So should we talk about a couple of scenarios then? Ken, you had
I have a few. So the first one, I guess, is with old carpet. Let's just say the carpet has been there for like maybe 5-7 years or something like that. And it's starting to get a little bit old, and then there's damage to it, right? Let's just go with 10 years old carpet.
So 10-year-old carpet, and then there's a red wine stain on it at the end of the tenancy.
Where does that sit? Is that classified as damage, or is that something that the carpet needed to be replaced and stuff like that? Like maybe it's not in perfect condition all around. Where would that kind of sit? Okay,
so we know that accidents can happen, and it's not intentful or intended damage, but it's negligence. Now, negligence under the tenancy laws is something that the tenant would pay. However, the catch here and the situation for the property owner is that there is a depreciable value on every fixture and fitting inside the property. And by way of rule of thumb, when there are disputes, and I've certainly been in front of the tribunal many times over disputes around damage and wear and tear and cleaning and so forth, the tribunal members basically apply the ATO, Australian Taxation Office depreciation rules. So carpet, blinds, paint, light fittings, all these items have a shelf life, and normally that's around the 10-year mark. So, for example, if the carpet is already 10 years old and there is damage on the carpet, red wine stain or a cigarette burn and so forth, and it has to be replaced or repaired, unless you can mutually negotiate a fee that you can, both live with as a landlord and tenant, and if you can't, and the matter goes before a tribunal to make a judgment on that, they will apply the depreciation rule.
Yeah.
As in that 10-year-old carpet will have generally a zero value, and the tribunal will say, well, very sorry, it's at replacement stage. It does have zero value. For that reason, I award zero to you as a landlord.
Alrighty. All right. You have to ask the
I've got
controversial
the other
one.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you are a tenant and you need to change a light bulb,
yes.
do you call an electrician?
How many
do it
tenants
yourself?
does it
Do
take?
you? You have to change a light bulb.
So how many tenants does it take to change a light bulb?
Yeah.
Okay, so for many, many years, a long, long time, that part of the law was grey. It was very grey. Okay, we didn't actually know who was responsible to actually change a light globe, believe it or not. And you just had to negotiate your way out of it.
Wow, I just would have gone, boom, you do it.
You think so.
Yeah.
You think so. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes ceilings are high.
Oh, yeah.
You do require a ladder.
Yeah.
And sometimes the light fittings are actually tricky to get off.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they can be screwed in, they can be clipped in, they can be halogen lights that are embedded in the ceiling. It can be very, very tricky. And the last thing you want is for the tenant to get electrocuted or have a fall off the ladder, or
last thing.
You don't want a lawsuit in your hands.
Yeah.
However, in the last when was it that came in? 2010, the new act came in. For the first time in a long time, they actually defined that it is now the tenant's responsibility to change a light globe. Wow. However, if it's physically difficult to do so, the landlord will need to engage a tradie to do it. So if it's a difficult situation, very high ceilings or very tricky light fittings, that becomes a maintenance matter.
All right, and that sort of immediately makes me jump to the next issue that is usually a surprise for landlords or property owners, is the emergency allowance limit.
Yeah, so that's called the urgency repair clause in leases. So that's a standard. It's standard in New South Wales clause, and I do believe around the country similar amounts of it and similar or different wording about the emergency clause. But every single lease does have a clause that gives the tenant discretion to call a tradie, which you can nominate in the lease.
All right.
Okay, now they're for emergency reasons only. Emergency repairs are actually listed in the tenancy. So they could be things that are pretty dangerous or going to have ill effect on the property or the well-being of the tenant. So we're talking potential burst water pipes, blocked toilets, loss of security or failure of locks.
And hot water
leaks, broken hot water systems. And over the last few years, they've actually introduced cooling and heating as well. So there is an allowance in the New South Wales that's $1,000 that gives the tenant discretion to call out a tradesperson after hours if they can't reach the agent. Yeah. Or it's Christmas Eve, or it's New Year's Eve. The property management office is closed. Landlord's on holiday, so is the property manager. Yeah. That clause allows the tenant to call out a tradie, get the problem fixed. If they have to pay for it themselves out of their own pocket, then they must be reimbursed for that cost within 14 days.
Oh, that's not too bad. I thought you were going to say within 24 hours.
No, they do give 14 days. Yeah,
okay. And so then the best practice for landlords then, when we're working with our clients, and often this is a surprise as well, I say to them, really try and visit the property yourself at least once a year, but work with a good property manager who will go to the property at least twice, if not 3 times a year, and make sure you check their reports. I've actually been in a situation where we had a really bad property manager, and I'd love to name them right now, but
we name no names.
Call me if you want to know who it is. I've actually written a blog about it. So they were sending us reports, but they didn't have any photographic evidence, and as it turned out, they weren't actually visiting the property.
Okay. So no physical inspection at all?
No.
Right.
Anyway, and so as an owner, you can go to the property, go along with the property manager, and they will engage the tenant so that you can have a good look around yourself. But if you can't get there, at least make sure you're working with a property manager that is providing, if not a video, at least some photos.
Yeah, so like any, profession or service, there are ones that do it okay, there are ones that do it really good.
Thank you.
And the good proactive, thank you, and the good proactive property manager will not just do an inspection and take photos of the premises, they can actually foresee potential problems in the future with that property.
That's
list those. And list those. The classic one is for me walking through the property and actually having a look at the stamped date on the hot water system. So hot water systems can be a nuisance because water tanks, especially if they're contained within the property, such as in apartments, can burst and can semi-flood the place. And we know somebody that actually happened to, Scott.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, he had a hot water system burst in his kitchen that was housed under in Bondi, his property investment property in Bondi. Okay. The hot water heater burst, and it was contained in the kitchen cupboard, and the water started trickling out all over the kitchen floor. But not only that, it continued on into the living area through floorboards.
Oh no!
That then buckled.
Oh no!
So water penetrates the wood, and you have a wavy effect on your floorboards, and that was an absolute nightmare because the tenant had to vacate the property. That he had to be put up in a hotel.
Oh wow!
And of course the turnaround and the repairs and maintenance and an insurance claim, and then dealing with strata. So it can be an absolute nightmare if you're not proactive and can foresee and understand some of the basic maintenance that can occur in the future, such as busted hot water systems.
Yeah, and I think another point and a service that you provide is that you're always looking for opportunities and when the time's right to actually add value or do
a spruce up.
Yeah. Because you were telling me you've managed over 100 renovations. You said.
Yes, well over 100 turned over, and had some fantastic results because. I've got to make a decision if I'm going to be taking on the property, and especially, Deborah, as you know, there's new legislation coming in for the first time in New South Wales, and this has happened all around the states, one by one, called minimum standards. So minimum standards of property. Look, it's a great thing. And this is where the opportunity to upgrade your properties. And there'll be 7 criteria of minimum standards to meet. But they're really basic, simple, logical things.
That good landlords
would be doing it anyway.
Yeah. It's appalling. Okay, and so did you have anything to mention about the finance side of things?
Yeah, I guess for, from a broker's perspective, I guess it's just for applicants or borrowers to forecast or budget in potential repairs. It's not just the ongoing strata, council rates maybe, possibly water rates, but and landlord insurance, but also to factor in some of those items which are classified as repairs, so things that do depreciate, that do need to be replaced, to kind of factor that in when considering how much it's going to cost to hold the property on top of the home loan.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, it's one of those expenses that are kind of back of your mind, but when they happen, it can be very costly, and you haven't budgeted for it. So all of a sudden it's like a bit of a panic, or some landlords that I've come across over the years just say, "Oh, sorry, we don't have the money to do this right now." Unfortunately, the law is not on their side.
Yeah.
As things come up and maintenance has to be done,
It has to be safe.
So
it has to be made safe and property.
What would happen in that situation? Like, so let's just say, you know, they're going through like hard time, or like financially or something like that, as a landlord, unable to kind of cover these things. What's going to happen?
What is the worst case scenario is that the tenant can take an order out on the landlord to make the property good.
Sure.
Financially, how they come up with the money becomes their problem. They're collecting rents, so obviously there's an income coming through.
Yep.
I'm sure most now have credit cards as well, and it can be as harsh as that. I've seen tribunal members order that they pay for it on their credit card if it's in a reasonable amount.
Yeah, I think this just comes down to good advice. So when they're buying that property, they should be advised to be prepared to do a little bit of maintenance.
Yep.
And certainly when we're helping people buy, we allocate a certain percentage. But all right.
Yeah, I mean, the health and safety of property is a huge thing in property investing, especially if you're a property manager. The compliance is just every year gets greater and greater and greater. The red tape is it just keeps going and going.
That's why people who self-manage are just crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so thanks for watching. We'd love your feedback. Please join the Property Mythbusters Facebook group and send us your questions or myths and any other queries you would like answered. You can contact us directly through our social media channels, or just reach out if you would like us to cover a particular topic. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.